And we should be good to go. So for the Planning Commission members, I'm not sure how we want to handle this since our chairman has resigned. If do one of you all want to run the meeting, or do you want me to facilitate it for this meeting?
I vote you take the bull by the horns and lead this one.
Okay. Well, all I really have are the two development presentations or discussions that I sent out the information about. So we'll go through and make introductions real quick. Is everybody, and Sarah voiced her opinion, is everybody else okay with that?
I'm fine with that.
Yes.
Okay. So we have representatives from, well, we have Carl as the representative, owner, engineer for the Orchards subdivision, section 2, which is the Red Delicious Drive. And we'll be going over the Orchards first, and that way Carl can sign off there and get some rest. And then we have Max von Arnswald, who is the owner / developer for the Roxbury subdivision, and Bill Moore, who is engineer on that project. So we'll get to that one in a second. That one's a little bit more involved since it's since we have to do the public hearing and things like that. So I don't know, does anybody need the minutes of the last meeting read?
I don't think we need them. I personally don't need them read, but I do think we should at least, you know.
You want to recap?
Yeah.
Okay. So Sharon, I'll let you take that if you want to just give us a brief once over on what we discussed at the last meeting.
Okay, Matt Severance has requested a variance for his third lot at the corner of American Legion Drive and Roxbury Lane. He is requesting putting the building at an angle which would save existing trees, but the setbacks would be 25 feet from back instead of 30 feet and 15 feet side setback instead of 25 feet. This request will go before the BCA, but the Planning Commission has no issue. In fact, we support it. It will have a more attractive appearance. Did it go before the BCA?
It did, and it was approved.
It was. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Discuss the concept plan for the proposed Roxbury subdivision. The new layout shows a decrease from 5 to 4 duplexes at the bottom and an increase of 2 duplexes at the top of the hill off Irish Lane. The developer must submit a master plan since this is zoned R2. And then we also discussed the preliminary plans for the second phase of the Orchards development behind Advanced Auto Parts. Now there I was just skimming through, so
Okay.
is there anything more specific you want?
Hey Sharon, on the part about the Roxbury subdivision in the zoning, did you say you have it? It is zoned as R2.
Yeah.
Okay, you might want to make a correction on that because it's zoned R5, and that way we won't have any confusion if anybody goes back to look at the minutes in the future.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
Okay. Change.
Anybody else have any questions, corrections on those? What Sharon went over there briefly?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with the Orchards section 2 plan that was submitted. And as I put in the information I sent out, and as you all know, since that is zoned R3 conditional, it just requires a recommendation from the Planning Commission to the Town Council. And then the Town Council will hear it. They'll discuss it at the January Town Council meeting, which is January 14th. And then they can just, they can make their decision at that point. Because of the zoning, does it require a public hearing for that submittal? And it's basically for the subdivision of the property. Now, I had one question for Carl that I sent over to him today. And it was in reference to VDOT. He's going to submit all the information to VDOT. I don't think I sent that over to him clearly enough that they needed to get VDOT approval, because since all the streets in town are maintained by VDOT and under VDOT control. So he's going to send the information over to VDOT. We'll have any comments back, should have any comments from them back before the January council meeting. If Planning Commission, after discussing it tonight, decides they want to approve the plan, but without the VDOT comments, then you can make it contingent upon receiving approval from VDOT. And Carl, I believe you said that the county has already made approval on the plan.
That's correct.
Okay.
AC, I've got a question.
Sure.
Is the town of Timberville at the point or close to the point where the town would take over maintenance of the roads, or are we still pretty far from that?
Our projections for our population, in the 2010 census, we were at 2,522. And so with increase in the building, new homes and stuff, we kind of projected, for the past couple of years, we said around 2,700 people is what we figure with the build out of Legion Hills. We really don't know, but once the census numbers come out, we'll have a better idea. But I still think we're gonna have a ways to go, because it's 3,500 population is the threshold. So I would be very surprised if we've gotten that close to it since the last census. But like I said, we'll have to wait and see till the 2020 census numbers come out. Give us a better idea of where we're standing population wise.
Thank you. So are we waiting for a motion to approve changing the zoning of that subdivision?
Well, it's not actually changing the zoning. What we're doing is approving, we would need a recommendation to approve the subdivision plan as presented. And Planning Commission can discuss this as much as they want, ask questions. I'll try to answer as many questions as possible. If I can, I'll defer to Carl and let him give an explanation.
So AC, I'm assuming you talked a little bit about traffic. It would be stop sign control there at that intersection.
At Granny Smith, and yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And then the only other thing I was looking at on those plans, and obviously they have experience having built Granny Smith. Looking at that ST1, when you're talking about wastewater management and that sort of thing, or runoff more or less, not wastewater, but do you think that's enough? Is that similar to what we have on Granny Smith that's holding, with that water?
I'd have to go back and look at the plans for Granny Smith. Sediment and erosion control all comes under the county's review. So as long as the county says it's adequate, then that's what we have to base it on, because we don't hire out our own engineers to do those calculations. And then I believe VDOT would probably have requirements too, since it would be water runoff, stormwater on their roadways. So it'll be covered through the county, and then probably also have a VDOT review of that too.
All right, because
The stormwater management plan is what the county approved.
okay, because I know there's nothing back there now, really, but maybe someday.
Yeah, and that was one of the things after we had the Public Works Department review the utility plans, details, layouts, all of that, and that was one of the things we went back to Carl with, was about where the depth of the water line, and because of the contours of the land, they really couldn't. Our water line gets kind of deep in the plans. And that was one of the things that we've gone back about and asked if he could change that to make it so it wasn't so deep. But unfortunately, because of the contour of the land, to control the stormwater with the piping, they had to make our water line that deep to be able to get the right grade and to be able to get the stormwater to flow out of there properly.
Yeah, it just seemed to me there's a grade, and I'm not I can't say I'm an expert on that particular piece of property, but it does seem quite a decent grade down if you're headed down Granny Smith.
Right, down the hill, the top part of the top half of the hill, if you want to call it that, is fairly steep, but then when you get to the bottom is where it levels out. And to discharge to daylight makes it kind of difficult, if I'm saying that the right way, Carl.
Well, I'm just wondering if they're going to wind up having to deal with some of the water off that lot in front of them, the old Mason Motors lot.
Gotcha.
Once they build there, are they going to also have to contend with trying to deal with whatever that brings onto them? You know, that would be my concern is, sure, they can handle their own water, but kind of, are they going to have to deal with some extra there? Would be my concern. And all that is just a lot.
Right.
And we've addressed taking, based on drainage areas, what's coming on there now and whatever condition that lot's in. Obviously, if that lot develops, if the development of that lot changes any in the future, then they, just like our site or any other site in the world, then they're going to have to address the stormwater that's going to leave their site, and they're not going to be able to make it any worse. And they're going to have to meet the then current stormwater regulations that'll be in place at that time.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about how we got kind of lucky with the way Walmart handled so much of the water runoff from Food Lion and all that stuff. And, you know, we got lucky there. And I think some folks down in that area are certainly appreciative of the fact that they handle all that water. And I just was curious if that was something the county was going to look at. And I know that that's not, you know, once those are approved, obviously they've gone through the proper channels. And I looked over the plans, and I mean, there's quite a bit that they've gone into, obviously. I can't imagine that's a cheap part of your development plans, is going through that, the water stuff and the sediment and erosion. But just thinking about how that water might come down there, and you might be a unfortunate beneficiary of some extra water from that lot up top.
Yeah, like Carl said, I'll say Carl Snyder said, it is state regulation that you can't create more runoff than what was already existing. So they would have to figure out some way to manage that.
Okay.
I have a quick question, and I don't know who can answer this. I'm not familiar with what's currently there at Granny Smith. Are there sidewalks in that subdivision right now,
Yes,
or no?
yes, there are.
Okay, and I'm assuming that would be the same. Okay, I remember I looked over all the plans last night, but I couldn't remember what I saw.
Yeah, our land development regulations require that.
That's what I thought.
Require sidewalks on both sides of the street. So yeah.
That's what I thought.
Any other questions?
Nope.
So if there's no other discussion, then if anybody has the urge to make a motion or to formulate a recommendation in the form of a motion to go to town council at the January meeting.
Okay, well then I make a motion to recommend moving this on to town council for their next meeting.
Okay.
I'll second that.
And Sarah, just to clarify, is that making a motion? Your motion is to recommend approval of the plan for the town council?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
I wasn't
Sarah,
certain what verbiage you needed.
right. Sarah made the motion. Greg, did you second that?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Thank you all very much. And thank you, Carl Snyder, for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
You're free to go and get some rest.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All righty.
Bye.
See ya. All right, so we will move on to the Roxbury subdivision. So a little bit more involved just because of the process that it needs to go through. I've been sending comments over to Max and Bill, and they've done a great job of getting stuff turned around and information sent back to us. I don't know, did everybody get a chance to look at that email that I sent over today with the house styles and things like that? So that's kind of helpful and may help to answer some of the questions.
Let me ask you a question about that, AC. There were actual numbers with the duplex, meaning as far as square footage and things of that nature. I did not see that on the single family homes. And my impression was that the plans would require that.
They may. We can, that's one of the areas of our land development regulations that needs to be addressed, and probably some of it doesn't, different sections kind of almost conflict. They will be required to have a minimum of 1,100 square foot living space. And based on what they've shown and told us as far as the Legion Hills development, then they'll easily meet those square footage requirements.
Certainly.
But
That first house I want to buy.
There you go, Sharon. So I don't know, we could probably have, if y'all would make a note, maybe talking to Max and Bill here, if y'all would make a note somewhere on the plans indicating the minimum square footage that the residences would be, and then and maybe even include something if possible. I don't know if it's possible to do or not, but maybe include a note that says, kind of gives an average square footage of what the homes might be. And like I say, I don't know if that's possible since since you don't have all the house plans figured in there yet. But at least a note of indicating the minimum square footage would be a good thing to go towards to have in place before the public hearing.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sure that is simple and doable for Bill. That addresses the ordinance, and that really does make sense. To acknowledge our understanding of the 1,100 square foot minimum requirement, and it's shown on the plans. And as y'all's discussion just indicated, we haven't in advance templated what house plans would be going on there, and from the standpoint of a developer who potentially will be marketing some of these lots to other parties, I don't know that any developer would ever be able to define with a lot of specificity the sizes of the houses. Ms. Jones, I do think we could probably commit to an average, as I indicated on the, kind of the text on the pictures that I sent, keeping in line with the size range that had been done in Legion Hills. And, I could probably do a little survey somehow on the GIS or something and get kind of an average. But just speaking out loud here, I'm thinking in the 1,600 foot minimum up to the 2,000 square foot range would be the size range, so you kind of take the middle of that, and you're probably in the 1,750 average size. Just speaking out loud here, I think is probably an educated approach to this.
Great. Other questions?
AC, I had read the letter from the town about fire hydrants and the water line and that sort of thing. And obviously that's something that council is going to address. But I was just curious if we knew any more about that now.
We haven't, I haven't sat down with Bill and Max yet to talk about that in detail, but it is a conversation we'll be having.
I guess my question, AC, is my understanding from the letter was the water line was something we'd like, but wasn't necessarily required, that second line.
The town, yeah, and it's more of a, I don't know if you want to call it a second line. It's basically splitting what they have there in half. You would only have one line going in on the street at the bottom of the hill. And then at the top of the hill, you would have a line going in Irish Lane that would eventually extend all the way back to the new water line that goes up across the hill through Mr. Swope's field. Okay. So towards Broadway. The Public Works Department, they just thought that would be a better looping situation instead of looping through the field there. It gives you a little bit of advantage. The one thing that is advantageous to having it come in off of Irish Lane, and this is new for Max and Bill, because like I say, we haven't talked about this before. There is, when the Legion Hills development was built, a new water line was run across the hill. Well, up to the top of the hill, from the bottom of the hill up to the top, it's only a 6-inch line. And then about Irish Lane is where it becomes an 8-inch line now. So we actually have it looped all the way up through the field. It comes through Legion Hills subdivision and comes into next down from an 8-inch to a 6-inch at Irish Lane. So if we interconnected Irish Lane and run back that way, we're connecting an 8-inch onto an 8-inch instead of at the bottom of the hill where you would have an 8-inch coming off of a 6-inch, potentially where it would be connected. And you would have a looped 8-inch line through there once it runs all the way out to the new line come up through Swope's field, as opposed to having six-inch line in there somewhere. And the 6-inch would be sufficient to feed the bottom street. But it works better to have that line come down Irish. And it also sets us up for future projects to be able to connect. It's only a 1-inch line that goes down Irish Lane now. So it gives us the opportunity, if we have that coming in, to be able to connect those houses on and get them onto an 8-inch line. Get rid of some of those smaller lines that are feeding quite a few houses down through there.
What's the advantage of the homeowner? Just out of curiosity, is there an advantage
of having
8 as opposed to 6-inch line?
Well, the way it was currently designed, you would have a 6-inch line or an 8-inch line coming off of a 6-inch line. It would tee off of the 6-inch line on American Legion Drive, go in that bottom road as an 8, up through the field as an 8, and feed the upper part of the development as an 8. Without any interconnection that way until you get all the way over through the field. It increases your flow. Pressure's questionable. You have to remember a lot of this, because over there we just really don't have good pressure, and Greg can attest to that. But we just, that's further down the line. One of the big things that we look at with this and is great, since we have Chris Kaufman as our maintenance supervisor and also the fire chief of the Timberville Volunteer Fire Department, we get kind of a double set of eyes looking at this, or 2 perspectives looking at it. And so Chris can look at it from a fire flow point of view, which is important in that area because of the, we don't have the pressures that we would normally, that we have in other parts of town. So that's what we're looking at, is
like a lift station or something like that.
What we would be looking at, and it's going to end up coming up in the future with these developments, we would have connection fees between Roxbury subdivision and the Orchard subdivision. I figured it up, and roughly it's going to be around $500,000 in connection fees between the 2 developments. And so my recommendation that I'm working on, that I'll bring before council when we get into the budget session, is that we seriously look at allocating a lot of that funding, a lot of that revenue from those connection fees to go towards a water tower or a water tank, storage tank over on American Legion Hill, somewhere over there on American Legion Hill. We looked at that last time, actually when we built a new tank up on Route 42 a few years ago. We'd actually looked at moving that tank over here. It just didn't work out. The cost benefit wasn't there to reuse that old tank. So we would look at putting a new tank over there, which would give us increased pressure, considerably increased pressure. So that would be that's the best scenario for that.
would that water tower have to go in before Roxbury gets built?
No, we would still have adequate flow, and especially because of the looped, with the new line that goes up through Swokes Field, that creates the loop, that gives us enough, that helped our flow quite a bit on a fire suppression side of things when you're looking at it that way. Like I say, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't really help pressure much. I think we only gained a pound or two of pressure by putting that loop line in up through the field, but it definitely helps with fire flow.
It's awful nice not to have to run tankers back there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be a bad scene.
Yeah. And we obviously have adequate supply for water and sewer for capacity, I should say, for both of these developments. When Walmart was built, that kind of freed up a lot of capacity. We'd always figured our water and sewer capacity based on that field being built out at maximum capacity. And obviously that didn't happen. So it definitely freed up some capacity. Other questions? Anybody have questions for Max or Bill?
I just have a concern about the intersection there at Lone Pine and American Legion. I know we've talked about it before, but that, that's a bad intersection as is, and especially with more parents taking their kids to school. I know that VDOT, we need to talk to VDOT about doing something about that intersection, because the amount of homes that are going to be going in there, traffic is going to increase exponentially, and that intersection is what that's my main concern about about the development.
Well, luckily the bridge has been widened, and
right. And I've seen that, and that does make it a lot nicer, but I'm just thinking about the way that intersection is staggered.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we're blessed with offset intersections.
I know that
Lone
Lone Pine is, oh gosh, yeah, the planning. Oh, but yeah, that when I was looking at, I have no qualms about the actual building aspect of the subdivision. It's just the amount of traffic flow that's going to go through there.
it seems like a good place for a traffic circle, or to have the two roads connect as one. That would take quite a lot of engineering though.
Greg, what's your opinion on that new quote unquote bridge? I've driven over it a couple of times and it is wider, but it still doesn't strike me as being regular width.
I'm not sure what the regulations are for that. I'm sure it's meeting VDOT regulations now. And I've fit with two cars going by each other just fine through there. Anytime a bus comes through, of course, you got to stop and let it go. But so far, I mean, it's a massive improvement.
I've heard from some other residents in that area too that said that it's definitely an improvement, and some of it is a habit thing of stopping to let somebody else go by. They said they said they've gone through and gone past, you can pass on it easy enough, but said a lot of people don't, and it's just because out of habit that they've developed. It's in their heads that they can't do that. So we
have the new the changes to Roxbury and Irish. Have those been, or excuse me, is it Irish that where the duplexes would go? Or sorry, the townhouses.
Those would be on a new street at the bottom of the hill.
That's right. Has that been reviewed by VDOT
VDOT has reviewed it and has sent their comments over. It's a fairly long list, but it doesn't, I haven't gone through it item by item yet, but gentlemen, y'all can answer this as the developer and engineer on it. But to me, it didn't seem like the comments were overly excessive in what they were asking for. It was just a lot of lines, but it didn't seem like a whole lot of change in them. But maybe y'all can address that better than I can from just glancing over it.
Yeah, Austin, I'll chime in a little bit there. That we did just get the VDOT comments, and they were, I mean, by and large, notations and just minor comments. Nothing that really affected the substantial layout of the subdivision at all.
Great, thank you.
So let me ask one other thing about that, what Sarah brought up with that intersection there. And trust me, I am no proponent of traffic signals. But would that be something that VDOT would look at to perhaps make that intersection a bit safer, even in an offset situation like we have there? I think some sort of signalization might work. And I don't know what our thoughts are as far as how many homes are going to wind up back in that area. I'm not just talking about this particular development. Seems to me more and more traffic is going to be coming down Legion or up Legion. And with a school there, I think that's a concern to me as well. I mean, I'm a little biased there. I've got 2 kids go to that school. And as you all know, I think Lone Pine is a road that is pretty easy to go a touch over the speed limit. And I think Sarah brings up an interesting question. We spent a lot of time talking about the bridge, but maybe not necessarily as much time talking about that intersection. That may, I mean, I think she's right. It's something to be concerned about.
Max or Bill, did y'all want to address any of that? I'm not sure what all, how far VDOT's review went on when they were looking at these plans, if they actually looked at that intersection or not. Do you know?
Well, so if you recall, Austin, I guess my recollection is that R5 was already in place and we were just updating, or we were providing a master plan for the development. So I guess that would actually predate our involvement when that was either annexed or made R5. That would have been VDOT's opportunity to look at what that by right use for that highest and best use of that property would have been at that point in time.
Gotcha.
But no, none of that was in our study for our use, because we're essentially just coming in as a by right use now.
Right. Okay.
And I'm guessing that would be a little far off for VDOT to be taking a look at. I'm sure they're only looking at those couple of roads and sight lines. I saw some of that on the original plans as well. Just something for us to think about. I mean, it's obviously not their issue per se to deal with, but something the town should be thinking about.
Yeah, we'll definitely make contact with VDOT on that and have some discussions and see if they have some thoughts before we get too far along in development, before we get too much more population increase back there, and see what might be able to be done. We get enough people, we can take over our own streets, and then we can do what we can make the improvements we need.
Did you find some CARES Act money there, AC?
All right, other questions?
I guess what's next for this public hearing, joint public hearing?
Right, that's correct. Yeah, we'll have a joint public hearing set up for we'll get that advertised and get that set up for the January 14th town council meeting night.
Do you need a motion from us tonight or no?
No, there's nothing, we don't need any kind of motion tonight, because it'll just go to the
Okay.
public hearing. That's why a few years ago, we moved the planning commission meeting around. It used to be the last Wednesday of the month, and then we moved it to the third Wednesday of the month because it actually gave us, it's kind of, normally it was the week after town council meeting. But we still have enough time, even having it this
Right.
late, that we can get the advertising done. Because of situations like this, we can have planning commission review plans or have these discussions and still be able to get the advertising done or get the advertising put into the paper with the sufficient amount of time that's required. So any other questions before we release Max and Bill?
I guess, AC, would there be any other information we'd be required to take a look at before we would make a recommendation? Because my recollection of how this works is we do make a recommendation at some point during that joint meeting.
Depending on the scope of the project that's being presented, you can make a recommendation. Planning Commission can make a recommendation that night, or they can actually come back and say they want to discuss it more. It depends on that's why we have a lot of these meetings beforehand and the review and everything, so that we can iron out any of the little wrinkles or something that's not real substantive that might put a damper on things. And then unless there's something significant that comes up in public comment at the public hearing, that might sway, somebody might have a point that they make that nobody else has thought of, or comments that might make a planning commission or council think differently. So, yeah, it can go a couple different ways there. You don't have to make a decision. You don't have to make a recommendation that night. But we also try to keep things moving as smooth as possible and in a good time frame, so we don't set anybody back either. Because I know, we're all very aware that everybody has money tied up into the property, and obviously want to see some return on that. You don't want to be sitting. I wouldn't want to be sitting on an investment like that. So we always want to try to be cognizant of that. So.
Just the letter from the town made it seem like we needed some fairly detailed plans.
Yeah,
and that would be what I'm curious about. Would council be looking for even more? And I saw the list of street names and that sort of thing, but I thought, and again, this is off the top of my head, and I don't have it in front of me, but down to landscaping and things of that nature. And I don't know how detailed a plan council would want to have in front of them at that meeting, and if we would be able to make a recommendation without that.
Right. And what I've run into, and that's another one of the areas where we probably need to make a little bit more distinction in our land development regulations, is like on the landscaping plan. Because as we know, when Walmart went in, it was a very important part of the plan because we wanted to know what it was going to look like around there. But when you have a housing development, you might have a tree in a front yard would be what the landscaping plan is. So it's kind of a how much detail would be required on something like that.
Well, similar to as he was saying, how much of a footprint of the house am I going to be able to give you before we build it? And
Right.
Obviously, I appreciate that and understand that.
Yeah. And the other thing that everybody needs to remember is that before any of the houses get built, they still have to get zoning permits from the town. And so all of that will still come back through my office, and I make sure that everything meets the square footage requirements, setbacks, all of that stuff. So it's several levels of or layers of checks in place to make sure that everything goes as according. But Carl, that's a good point with the level of detail. I will reach out to the council too and see, you know, see if I can get some feedback from them early on, just to see if they have any comments on the plans as they've been presented so far.
Yeah, I just hate for that January.
Yeah.
I'd hate for that January 14th meeting to come and somebody say, well, this isn't enough. And it be over some pretty, some minutia rather than the plan as a whole.
Right.
And I would not want to see that happen if there's no public comment that, as you said, brings up an issue that we need to take another look at.
Right. So I'll send that out and try to gauge the council's level of comfort with the amount of detail.
This is Max von Arnswell. I'll chime in there a little bit. Mr. Magenhofer, I appreciate your input, and us wanting to have the plans refined to enough level of detail just to move it forward. I read through a number of the things, and just to take a look at the landscaping plan. Bill and I discussed it, and we feel that he has addressed a piece of the landscaping plan that is integral to the erosion and sediment control compliance.
Yeah.
And I think he will and can easily fulfill what's written in item number 3, which is showing a table of the plantings. He'll simply list out whatever that species of grass or that particular mechanism that he's designed, which is most advantageous for us to achieve the desired erosion and sediment control goals as brought forward by DEQ and the state regulations and such. The only piece that I can add on to this and simply offer up, Austin indicated, hey, until we build some houses and the landscaping wizard comes in and does his magic on the nice plantings that he does to make the houses look good in their front yard or wherever. Since the Huffmans retained ownership of that 1 acre and their house and a large portion of our open space for the upper, what I call the upper part of the property, the area that's got the 2 duplex units and the predominance or all of the single family units, I could envision, stepping up to the plate and saying, hey, let's plant some Leland cypresses at 20-foot intervals or 30-foot intervals and along that property line, because that would be advantageous to both parties. It would be advantageous to me as a developer to buffer my property, my development from that existing older home, and it would benefit them to give them some privacy over time when that Leland cypress hedge grows up. Something simple like that. I'm talking about as part of the development plan, moving in that, or at the opportune time, moving in and planting 20 or 30 arborvitaes or Leland cypress, I think, are just a good buffer type planting. And Bill Moore put a chat thing in there that his voice is a little spotty, so I'm not going to call him to talk. But I think I don't think I overextended myself by offering to plant 20 or 30 trees like that. But I think that Austin can chime in and say if that meets the spirit of the LDR, but the way I read the sentence number 3, I think we can easily fulfill it for now, if that's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah, and you know, I didn't want to, no pun intended, didn't want to get too far in the weeds. I just didn't want to be in a situation on the 14th where somebody on council was saying this isn't enough, and you know, we were in that situation. So, and again, Max, I know you've got to sell these, so obviously it makes sense that they're going to look nice. The curb appeal has to be there. So, you know, I know that it's not going to, with that in mind, it's certainly going to look a certain way and have some aesthetics to it. There's no doubt about that. So I'm not that worried about that. My simple concern was the plans that are presented on the 14th. Is somebody going to say, oh, well, it doesn't have this or this, and then hold you up? And that was my only question there. And I would agree with you. The plans for the sediment control, quite honestly, were incredible and very detailed. And to me, best part of the plan, honestly, and I'm sure it had a lot to do with what you're required to do, but that section of the plans was very good.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, I expect Bill and his team to move forward with making these corrections on the plans. They're quite, you know, predominantly very simple CAD additions to their plans, and you know, that's just part of what they're doing with receiving the comments at this point of the development of the plans and making those refinements to move towards the final submittal. So just appreciate everybody's input and the dialogue.
Yeah, sorry, I lost connection there. I'm logged on now, participating as Tish. But so sorry, I missed out on that part right there. But the landscape plan, I guess you probably just talked about it, but you know, we were just offering the bare minimum on what we needed to meet stormwater requirements. So beyond that, that's all we have right now. And I don't know, maybe one of the other questions we had, I don't know if you already touched on it, Max, was about the street lighting.
They didn't bring it up. You know, basically in my you know, sort of overarching statement here just a few minutes ago was, you know, you receiving the comments on the plan in the state of development that it is, you know, if it's a 35% plan or if it's at 45 or 50 or whatever, and that you're making the required notations. But you know, Bill, any of your input to the audience on our you know, on our plan to comply with showing the streetlights on there are welcome.
Yeah, I guess it's been a while since I've done anything in Timberville, but Austin, are you able to give us maybe something from the power company that are they doing like a kind of a stock light
I think
out there?
Yeah, I think they typically, I remember an email from a year and a half or so ago that they sent out of, you know, everything. I think everything's one LED anymore. But yeah, I'll see what I'll get something on that as to what their options are. We've never been really particular on a certain style. Our big thing is just down light and not a lot of up light if possible. You know, some plans like the Walmart plan, we required a lighting photometric plan to show light bleed. In a residential development, it's not really necessary because all you have are a couple street lights, a street light every so often. That's not a huge concern. So that's why we wouldn't require that type of that portion of the plan in the master plan like this, because there's really no concern for light bleed because it's a few street lights. So
yeah, Okay, yeah, whatever you can find on that, you know, whether, is it SBC or Dominion out there? Do you know which?
Uh,
I'm not
I'm
sure.
going to say it's Dominion. We have both here in town, and it kind of splits in weird line. So I'll check and see, but I think it's Dominion. But yeah, I'll check and get you the information though.
Okay, great. And I know we touched on it briefly, but regarding the water line down Irish Lane from American Legion, you know, we kind of, when I saw the comment, I kind of just went back and looked at that. Yeah, the length is probably commensurate with what we're proposing through the open field past the, you know, the lot that was remaining between the two bow tie lots, I'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the concern I would have for Max's benefit is, you know, a lot of existing conditions to deal with there by going down basically an active street, as well as, you know, we got to do some additional survey and engineering because we didn't anticipate doing a line off site per se. So there's substantial cost there to him to take that on. We can certainly appreciate the fact that could be some mutual benefit for us and for existing residents on Irish Lane. So maybe that's something we can have a sidebar on at some point. Sure. About, you know, what the cost benefits might be, or maybe offset cost sharing or something like that, just to try to make that work. But
right.
I mean, certainly right now what we're proposing is the most direct and easiest route for getting water to the proposed development, because there's nothing out there but, you know, an open field. So
yeah.
You know, but if we start going down, you know, 6 or 7 driveways and, you know, right of way and things like that and other utilities, we don't know what we're going to get into. So it could get expensive really, really quick.
Yeah. Okay. Other questions?
I can't think of anything else. I had other ones last night, but my brain is fried today. So sorry, I can't think of anything.
We've been looking forward to seeing these plans, and the house plans that you sent look like a great fit. The types of residences mix well with what's there. I think this is a good fit for the town.
Max or Bill, y'all have any final thing, any parting words, anything you want to say here at the end?
Nothing on my end. I think we're, you know, excited about the project, looking forward to it. So I do agree. I think it's a really good fit for the area.
Yeah.
I don't have anything else extra. Once again, appreciate the opportunity to talk about this and the dialogue, and you know, it's a good discussion.
And maybe what we'll do is we'll get Max, we'll get you and Bill when we'll get on a meeting sometime. Maybe first week of January, if there's a time available at that point, and I'll get our maintenance guys or our public works crew on there too, at least Chris and probably Derek, since he's very familiar with the water system and everything. And we can kind of talk through, we can just talk about that water line route and everything. So.
Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah, just let us know what meets y'all's schedule. I'm looking at my calendar here real quick. I've got a few things already on the calendar that week, but definitely you know, suggest a time and we'll try to get together, Austin.
Okay.
Yeah,
sounds good. Okay, perfect. Planning Commission, any other questions, comments?
Did we want to openly discuss the, not on this particular issue, but openly discuss the issue with the need for new members?
Yeah, I figure once we close out this, we can address that then.
Okay.
All right, well, if nobody has anything more on the Roxbury subdivision, thank you, Max, and thank you, Bill, for coming in on this meeting tonight and discussing with the Planning Commission. It's always very beneficial to do. There's a reason we do it like this way, because it's nice to be able to get some of the questions answered beforehand, and kind of spreads the work out for you all, so it's not all slammed on you at one time if there's anything that needs to be altered or whatever. So thank you all very much, and you're free to go relax now.
All right, thanks, Austin. Y'all have a good holiday, and hopefully we'll be doing these live soon.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah, likewise. Have a great holiday, everybody. Thanks. Good night.
Thanks.
See you.
Bye.
All right, so yeah, so we have, I don't remember who all was already in on the meeting right before the meeting started. We do have just the two applicants, if that's how you want to phrase it, to fill the Planning Commission vacancies. I want to thank Greg for coming in tonight and filling out his term all the way up to the end of the year here. Stretch it out as long as we can, get as much out of him as we can before he departs.
Did you tell him about the special meeting on the 31st?
I'll be there.
So yeah, we only have those two applicants so far. Obviously, Sarah has mentioned there are a couple other people interested that are going to be working on a letter to the town. And what I want to do is right after the first of the year, the council has set up a committee to review the applicants, conduct interviews as we see fit, and get the vacancies filled so that we can, and obviously it's something we'll have to really push. It's going to be a pretty tight, especially to be able to have somebody to be able to constitute a quorum of the Planning Commission at the January council meeting. So I don't think that's going to be a huge issue if as long as we have the four available. If we can at least get somebody appointed to fill the vacant position once Greg's time on the Planning Commission is done, get that done the first week or probably the first week of January. We have some good applicants, and I think we will be able to definitely utilize that, the pool that we have, and hopefully anybody else that gets their letters submitted. So, and then we'll have to go through the process. I don't know what your all's feeling is. If you want to wait till we have a more full membership before a decision is made on who's going to be, because the Planning Commission elects its chair from the membership. So, you could technically do it tonight, but I don't know if that's something that you would want to do, or if you want to wait till you have a more full membership to have I would almost suggest waiting for a more full membership, make it, give it a little bit more legitimacy.
Yeah, we could trick a new person into doing it.
I was to say, I'm not raising my hand for that.
Well, let me understand something, AC. The chair of the Planning Commission also then has to serve on the BZA. Is that correct?
I don't know if it has to be the chair that serves on the BZA. I'll look that up. I don't know if it has to be the chair of the Planning Commission. Okay. But there is typically a Planning Commission member that serves on the BZA.
And right now we don't have one because Kevin.
Right. Kevin filled both positions.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure how that worked, but we do need a Planning Commission member to serve on the BZA.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Greg,
Is there anything on the calendar right now for the BZA?
No.
Okay.
Nothing, at least nothing for us. And I haven't heard anything from Kyle saying that they have anything coming up. So.
Okay.
And I believe the BZA is the same way as the Planning Commission, where the membership elects the chair, I believe.
Greg, are you moving out of the area?
Yeah, we're moving to Harrisburg. My wife got a job at JMU, and my job is there. My parents are there, and most of the stuff we do is there. So we're
Well,
gonna move a
we'll
little
miss
closer.
you. You haven't been with us that long, but you have been a good fit and we will miss you.
I'll miss y'all too. I'll definitely miss Timberville.
Yeah, Greg, we've benefited from having you on the commission, so thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Anybody have anything else any questions? I don't have anything further.
I don't think I have anything.
Well, I do have something. I looked back in when I took my minutes last time. I did put down R5, but when I wrote them up, I put R2.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
Well, everyone have a wonderful Christmas, and hopefully the new year will be faster.
All right. Thank you all very much. If nobody has anything else, we'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting. And thank you, Greg, for your service. We appreciate it. And best of luck. And don't be a stranger. Come back and visit us.
Thanks, y'all.
And everybody have a good holiday season, New Year, all that good stuff. So,
Thanks, AC.
Good night, everybody.
You
You all.
too. Thanks.
All right.